We're on page Reish Lamed Zion. We're toward the bottom, but I want to go back for a minute and say a little bit more about something which we went through rather briefly. We're dealing with the fact that Tikkun is characterized by broad kalim and diminutive or, and that toihu is just the opposite. It's ample or and diminutive kalim. So we go back Reish Lamed Zayin to the first ois. We discussed the concept that we had a couple of issues here, just to review briefly. The fact is, the Rebbe began the entire Maamar with a statement and a description of the nature of or. The nature of or is aliyah. The nature of or is dveikus. By or, we're talking essentially about or ein sof. So the question is, if that's the case, how are oris made available? How are they mamshech? How are they drawn down? And the answer is through avoda, through making a keli, through action of isrus l'tata, of stimulus from below. That's how or is designed. Or is designed to ascend, to be included within its source, to be concealed and not extend itself. That's its nature. And therefore, in order for it to go against its nature, contrary to its nature, and actually animate worlds and give life to worlds, it requires a process of being drawn out and being drawn down. And that comes about through avodah, through the service, ultimately through the service of the Jewish people. Although avodah could be looked at generally in a number of different ways. The concept of isrus l'tata, namely there has to be an initiative from below. The response then will be as an extension or a revelation of light, revelation of or. So the next issue came along that we're dealing with or ein sof. So how is it conceivable that anything that anyone does down here could draw down or ein sof? Because in accordance with the initiative from below is the response from above. We are not ein sof. We are mugbal. We are flesh and blood. We're limited. The best of us, the biggest of us, are limited. How is it possible then that we draw down limitless or at its source? So the answer is that there's a dimension to our avodah which is limitless as well. We are capable of bli gvul, of limitlessness as well. And this is the avodah of b'chol mi'odecha. This is a transcendence, where an avodah, an ava of Hashem, love of Hashem, a ratzah, a reaching out to Hashem, which totally transcends limitations and restrictions of kalim. Now, obviously, the bli gvul of a person is totally bein hareich to the bli gvul of the source of or. But nonetheless, it's bli gvul with respect to that person. The key is the concept of bli gvul. Something bli gvul dik, down here, even though it's only a dugma de dugma of what bli gvul is, nonetheless, it touches, it elicits a response which is bli gvul. It registers, it resonates l'mayla as an avodah bli gvul, and therefore the response is bli gvul. But the response is in accordance with the responder, okay, which is mamish emes or bli gvul. Now we have the problem of understanding if that's the case for mamshech or, which is bli gvul. How does it come into kalim? How are we able to contain it? How is it able to come to panemius, to be united with and animate specific particular dimensions of seder ishtalshus, of worlds, to give life to particulars and to spheres, which the implication of which is it requires containment of some sort. Well, in fact, in one aspect, it doesn't. It can't. This is the concept of toihu. That toihu is a matter of bringing down or. The avodah is a halal. So we talk here. Let's see. We go to Reish Lamed Zayin. We're in the middle of the first ois. Ubiavad mi'odecha hu bechinas halal bechinas or choizer. Do you guys have it? It's a little bit below the middle of the first ois.
Right in the middle.
Yeah.
Begins at the end of a line.
Yes.
About 7, 8 lines down, 9 lines down.
Right. So the hala, the elevation, the Isruz Latata is or choizer. It's an or which is totally beyond kalim, and an or which is in a state of ascent. And therefore, since this is the nature of the stimulus from below, the response from above is going to be parallel. It's going to be a hamshacha of Or Choizer. Now, Or Choizer means a returning light. It's very easy to understand, well, not very easy, but it's relatively easy to understand the concept of Or Choizer with respect to B'chol Mi'edecha, or with respect to the Yisrus Latata, because it is an Or which is not containable within Kalim. It is a light, it is an intensity of light which only knows Aliyah, which only knows ascent, which is not containable within the vessels, within the pnimis of the person. It does not rest Behis Yashvus, but it expresses itself as an overwhelming desire to ascend, to cleave to Hashem Yisbarach, a yearning for Hashem Yisbarach, which is beyond Seichel, beyond Midas, beyond everything. Therefore, the Or that descends is, in response, would seem to be a similar type of Or, which would be an Or of Or Choizer. Right? There are two types of Or. There's an Or Yosher and Or Choizer. Or Yosher is an Or which settles, which is enclosed within vessels, which is an Or Panimi. It's an inner light. It's a light which manifests itself, which permeates throughout this creative process and animates individual specific dimensions. Or Yosher means a straight light. Or Choizer is an Or which has no shaykh, has no connection with kalim or limitation or restriction, and therefore there's nothing holding it down, and therefore it's constantly in a state of aliyah. So generally we speak of the Or of Tohu, that the Or that has been drawn into Tohu through the behavior, we'll see a little bit later on, of the Yisrus Latata, is Or Makif. Makif also is a definition of Or, which is not containable, an Or which is not shaykh to kalim, not shaykh to islapshus b'kalim. It's an Or which it's a transcendent Or. It's not an Or which can be contained. However, we have to be careful because an Or Makif and Or Choizer are not exactly identical. Or Choizer, by definition, is a Makif of one sort or another, but not all Makifim are Or Choizer. L'mashal, you can have a makif d'or yosher. A person, you have a teacher who speaks to a class, and he is speaking at a relatively high level, and let's say about 20 or 30% of what he says can be internalized, can be understood, can be grasped by the vessel of the moyach, the keli of the moyach, the brain and mind. Can be internalized, can be grasped, can be understood in some way, but there's much of what he says which is beyond understanding of the group of students. They know enough to sense, because at least they have 30 or 40% which they've internalized and are able to grasp and able to understand. They're able to sense the loftiness of these concepts, and they're able to understand that these are dimensions of what he is talking about that just blow their mind away. These are awesome ideas, and they know to be awed by it, which is to say that this light which does not internalize itself in their minds, it's not that it doesn't affect them. It does affect them, but it cannot be grasped. It's not a graspable light. It's a light which causes, of course, stop thinking about when we're learning what excites us. The stuff that we understand does not excite us, because I got that, What excites us is what is just beyond reach. Oh my goodness, if I could only get some concept, some grasp of this phenomenal concept. So you have this group of students, and there's this Or which they can't get a hold of, excites them tremendously. It spoiled tremendous bittul in them, because they are self-nullified before the subject which they're being taught. And they feel the sense of awe for this amazing seichel which they cannot get a handle on. What does it mean? It's a makif. It affects them, it affects their emotions, it affects their minds in some way, but not in a way of grasping, not in a way of internalizing, not in a way of understanding. No, far from Yedisa Shlila. Not even near that. So what happens? The same Rebbe goes to a different class of older students or more advanced students, gives the exact same stuff, no problem. Everything is grasped, everything is internalized, everything is understood. Well, what about this Or that's Or Makif? No, it's Or Makif Lefi Erech HaMakabel. It's what's called a makif to or yosher. It's a makif. The or is essentially yosher. The or is designed to be understood. The or is designed to be grasped. Even these students who do not yet grasp it, they will. If they stick with it and they tough it out, what is or makif to them now, sometime, if they're diligent, will become understood, will be internalized, will no longer be or makif. So there'll be another level which will be or makif for them. For a group of students who are more advanced, what's an or makif for this first group, for them is or yosher, or panim, is no problem at all. So this is a makif, it's a relative makif. It's a makif which is really designed ultimately to be grasped, ultimately designed to contribute to a person's inner life, inner dimension, inner intellect, in the case of seichel. Makif to or choizer is a makif not with respect to a makabel, but with respect to itself. It's a makif which is be'etzim in a state of hisnasis, which is to say, it's not a makif which can be grasped. Not if I only had big enough kalim, I could grasp it. No, there's no grasping it, because that is not its teva is aliyah. In the way we used it over here, we can think of this as or, which is pashut. This is or ein soif pashut betachlis pshitas, which is not in a getter of hamshacha. It's in a getter of aliyah. That's what hisnasus is. There's the din of hisnasus ha'atzmiyah, an essential aliyah, an essential an or which is essentially in a state of removal. By its very nature and by its very being. So this is really what we mean when we talk about the makifim of toihu, and why the or is not internalized, indeed cannot be internalized. Okay, I just wanted to make that distinction between the concept of or makif and the concept of or choizer.
But nonetheless, there's still some sort of shaka or a gilui or whatever you want to call it of this or.
No, not or choizer. Hamshacha, yes. What happens? You get a shvira.
But Payal, it comes down to this Elam.
No, it does not come to the Soilim. Or choizer.
It does, because it caused the shviras again, right?
No, I mean, well, but this is not, this Oilim is not, this is not Oilim HaToyu. Oilim HaToyu is vastly elevated above us, okay? But what we would call an or choizer is something that actually does come to us, but it comes to us in a way of absolute helam, which is a whole subject by itself, which that's not this. Okay, so it's fascinating. It's an amazing subject. It's discussed at very great length in Ayin Beis, but we got to understand what we're doing now. Okay, but very good idea. V'siba ha'davar. So the Rebbe is giving us a mashal. So what do we mean? What do we mean by? We're talking about toihu now. We go back to the problem of toihu. The problem of toihu is katnas hakeli, small vessels, and ample ore. Tikkun is just the opposite, ample vessels. Mind you, the question that we've just asked is going to have to go on Tikkun, because Tikkun, Soif Kol Soif, also has the mitzvah of B'chol Mi'edecha. So how come its B'chol Mi'edecha actually results in a successful internalization of or and a true gilui of the highest level of Kedusha within, and Tohu turns out to be something of a mistake. So the Rebbe is the example of a tinuk, the difference between a tinuk and an adult. A tinuk, a child, is someone crosses a kid, whatever, takes something away from him, tells him something he doesn't want to hear, makes him do something he doesn't want to do. So there's a major explosion. The kid, the mind cannot. The mind takes it in all the purity of a child. It is pure anger. It is pure gevura. That's what the child sees. The child sees something which detracts from his will, which crosses him, which is an obstacle. The world's coming to an end. They kick, they scream, they have tantrums. We all know this. We've seen it. An adult undergoes a tsar, a pain at the hands of someone else, be it an insult or whatever, in any area where a person is injured by someone else, also feels anger. Because that's what insults elicit. That's what inflicted pain elicits. But with the adult, at the time, as the Rebbe described, at the time, even at the time of the insult, at the time of the pain, depending upon the maturity of the adult can find a way to show kindness to the person who's inflicting the pain. Can show a way of can show mercy, can show compassion. B'shas ma'isa, not just later on down the line after he's cogitated over it for a while, but even at the moment could find a means and find cause to show compassion to the person who is contradicting him. So what's the difference between the adult and the child? The difference is in the size of the kelim. The child is, by definition, as the keli we're talking about here now is moyach, brain. It's in a state of katnus. It takes things b'derech klal. B'derech klal means that there's a totality. It's black, it's white, there are no grays. It's good. Child is just ecstatic. It's bad. Whoa, that's bad. There are no gradations, because the inyan that the child is engaged in, the event at the moment, can only be seen in terms of a totality, in terms of its general total klolistic in nature. Particular is not something that a child is able to analyze and able to dissect. So this is the inyan of the child. The adult, on the other hand, has a broad keli, has a broad mind, a broad brain, and is able to find within every instance the dominant mode may elicit gevura, may be bad, may be something undesirable. But nonetheless, within there's also opportunities and possibilities for chesed, for rachamim, and what have you, because the person is an adult and sees things is able to dissect the event into particulars and into dimensions. And nothing is purely bad or purely good. But it takes an adult mind to be able to see the pratim in an event, to assess that fact, and to evaluate and to weigh. So this is where we're holding. V'sibah hadavar hu. Sibah of what davar? This is the reason why the child responds the way he does. Hu mipnei shahakoten keli sichloi katanim. The vessels of the brain, the vessels of the mind, the intellectual containers are b'derakatas, are small. V'chol inyan v'inyan lo yeh b'moichai ki im b'derek klal. Anything that happens to this child, it's b'derek klal. It's absolute blacks and whites. There are no grays here, and there are no particulars. Levad v'loi b'derek prat. He does not see things. He does not see things b'derech prat in terms of the components or the dimensions of an event or a happening. V'zehu she'etzem retzoynei hu sheroitze hu atzloi b'derech klal shahadavar toiv loiv sheyirtze bo ad ma'oid. So in his mind, what he wants. That's it. Doesn't consider, maybe it's not appropriate, maybe he wants it right now, but maybe he won't want it later. Maybe there are parts of it that aren't good for him. Maybe these are all out of range. He wants it, period. Shadavar toiv it's I want this is good for me, this is what I want. V'yirtze bayad moed. Lashon moed is used purposely and meaningfully here, because moed means it's beyond kalim. He wants it with a ratzon b'klal. Ratzon in general is a koyach hanefesh, which is not mugbal. It's a makif, and ratzon does not know of containment. It can know of dilution. It can know of concealment, but it cannot, when expressed fully and in purity, it does not know of containment. On the good side, what it means is no one can stand before ratzon. Nothing. I should not only know one. Nothing can stand before ratzon. If a person has a burning ratzon, which is totally irrational. And even beyond his ordinary midas, a person has a ratzon. You can't stand. There's nothing to stand in his way. That's a koyach ein soif he's expressing. That's an inyan of ma'oid he is expressing, and therefore that's what it is. So in the case of the tinuk, that's all he knows. He wants. He doesn't want. He does not know the pratim b'tiv hadover alav u'mamela ein haratzon mugbal. Since he doesn't have a grasp of the dimensions of the thing he's considering, there the ratzon's not mugbal. There's nothing to dilute it. There's nothing to give it particulars. Sheyirtze dafke b'ofen kazeh v'ad kama yispert haratzon. This is what he wants, and that's all he wants, and his ratzon will carry him to no end. U'kamay kein inyan hatzar. So that's in the case of ratzon. The child wants something, he wants it. In the case of tsar, in the case of adversity or an infliction of pain or something negative on the child, yitvus hakotan b'derech tsara. Same thing. Someone crosses him. This is the negative side. Someone crosses him. That's it. That's bad. Not maybe some bad, some good. Maybe it's worth. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe there's this. There are no maybes here. This is black. This is white. Period. This is mamish bad to his very being. Ma'oid, again the lashon ma'oid. Once already it's 100%. There's no limit. There's no end. There is no end to black. There is no end to white. Grays, there are gradations in grays, but black and white, black is just there's no end to it. He is not able to consider the inyan that's causing him pain. Not able to. Actually, we leave it at that. He's not able to consider it. He's not able to reflect on it. What means to consider? To consider means pratim. You cannot consider nothing. You cannot reflect on nothing. You can reflect. If you reflect on something, by definition, you are looking at its dimensions. You're looking at its significance. You're looking at its impact. You're looking at its meaning. You're looking at its meaning for you. You're looking. So that's what reflection is. That's what. That's what consideration really is. He is not able to do that because none of those things apply. It's bad. That's all. You cannot see the pratim that are within it. Umamela, ain't a moitze boy dover toiv klal lenafshoy. Ain't nothing good going to come out of him on this inyan. It's bad, and that's the way it is. Ulazois hu miskayas umiskatzif. To this effect, he is infuriated and angry. Ma'oid. The Rebbe, you notice Rabbi said the Rebbe keeps using the word ma'oid because that's the word we're interested in. That is the koyach bli gvul. When we talk about ma'oid, we are talking bli gvul. We are talking beyond kalim. We are talking limitless in some way. Now again, careful, because there are dargas in limitlessness. Again, we have to go back to the Chassidic theory of relativity. One man's ma'oid is another man's panemius. Okay, one man's ahava rabba, which is b'chol mi'odecha, the same emotion in another person. He's sitting there quietly contained, and he's internalized those feelings, those emotions, because he's got bigger kalim. So it's relative, but in one sense, it's relative. In one sense, it's absolute, and this is a very subtle point. You have to keep in mind, this is the whole story of Toyu and Tikkun. There's an absolute dimension to it. The absolute dimension to it is its ma'oid. That's bli gvul. Only with respect to the person. Nonetheless, its expression, not the thing itself, because the thing itself could be internalized by somebody else. By him, the thing itself, the content, is beyond containment. For another guy, the content is within containment. We're not talking about the content. We're not talking about the thing itself. The expression is moed. The expression is bli gvul. And as far as expression is concerned, it doesn't matter whether there's a cotton and it takes very little to get him to the range of moed, or there's a gadol and it takes a lot to get him to the range of the moed. The fact is, in both cases, they are beyond their kalim. They are expressing themselves in a way of bli gvul. This is the key. Pardon?
It's a tenua b'nefesh.
It's a sure, it's tenua b'nefesh. It's a tenua of yeah. This is all due to the fact that the kid has a small head. He's a small brain. This is katnas hamoyach.
How about the previous of the
that's a fabulous question. It's going to come up in 2 minutes. And I think I have your question right. The keli is small. What about the or?
It's also small. Now what's the problem?
If the or was also small, it wouldn't be a problem. And in most cases with the child, it is small. The way you talk, the way you teach a child, that's a very good point. The way you teach a child, the way you give panini in which you expect them to internalize. In other words, you want to give or which shot to the kalim. So if you ever see a first grade teacher or a kindergarten teacher, the way they talk to them, the or that they project is very matzumtzum, very maluvish in stories and inyonim. So the or the child can digest. You're right. Katnas hakeli ingests katnas or. But if the or that's drawn is beyond the kalim, which can happen very, very easily, then either the child is absolutely, if we're talking in the realm of seichel, the child is easily confused. That's why teaching is such an amazing skill. It's so difficult to be able to tailor or to the kalim of the makabel. But if we're talking about so an or of seichel, if the or is too much, what'll happen is the child will simply be confused and bored. If we're talking about or which elicits or of midas, and you get past the the critical point, then you have an explosion on your hands.
That's what's happening here, why it's chassidut extreme, because it's bigger than the
Here the or is far, far bigger than the keli capable of containing.
It is bigger.
Yeah, in this particular case. But you're quite right. You've got to have a situation where the or wouldn't be bigger. Most of the time, children don't either blow up or get hysterical or are exquisitely happy.
That's because you've broken it down.
You've broken it down in a sense, but you can't break it down too much. What you've given them are simple things that really don't require much breaking down. Here we're dealing with situations which are...
It's not the or is too much. It's just
Pardon?
The or wasn't broken down enough for them.
Well, all right, you could certainly, that's one way of looking at it. But there's another dimension here as well, because there are children who seem, well, we're going to see. Let's go a bit farther. The raya is that. What's the raya? Ein Ryan Gam, I'm sorry, Shana Ryan Gam Batinuk, Harif, Shemiskais Ma'oid, Ukshaisen Leib Negative Tzanai. Wait a minute. That's not always the case. Not always the case the kid has katas hamayach, right? What about a harif? You know, you have these little kinderlach running around who can, brilliant things come out of their mouths. You know, they come out with amazing things. That's harifas. Harifas means sharp. They come out with amazing things. If you sit down with them and try and nail them down to explain those things to you, they can't. They don't know how. Because harifas is pure or. They still don't have the kalim. The kalim are no bigger than anybody else's kalim. But they're shaykh to or, which comes out of their mouth that they themselves don't really have a grasp or a handle on. But the Rebbe is using this as a proof that even someone, a little child who's b'charifas, doesn't mean his kalim are bigger. It simply means that there's an or he has access to the average kid does not have. Now, why that is a whole story by itself, we don't have to worry about it. So this little kid who's a harif, who's shooting out chedushim right and left, you know, you take his lollipop away, he's going to scream the same way as the other kid. He's not going to be able to find schusim or anything else. Vuhu mipnei cotton hakeli. So the harf, yeah, very nice. But mitzad katnas hakeli, the same katnas that every child has, you take his lollipop away, you have a nuclear explosion. V'harifas hu mitzad or haseichel davke. Harifas is only mitzad the or haseichel. It is or haseichel. Now, why it comes to this kid and not another? It's a whole. We don't have to get into it. But we see clearly that such things happen. V'kidua. Da harifas b'chol dover hu be'etzem nekuda ha'askola. The harifas b'klal deals with generalized things. Harifas is not the equations of general relativity. They're sharp general statements that come out, general ideas, a nekuda, not a whole binyan of thought. These things do not come to Havana Vasaga. These are not things that a acute statement, a sharp statement, what seems to be a very sharp insight. These are not things that are going to come to analysis, not going to come to grasp, and in fact they're going to lead nowhere. Vial derech inyan chorif, generally the inyan of the chorif. Everybody says, I have to admit, there's a problem here, which I do not understand. The Rebbe gives a reference. I tried to find it. I could not. So these next four words I don't really understand. I mean, I understand the words, but I don't understand how they fit together, what they're telling us here. Inyan chorif, then we have this asterisk. Umakasha, masan, umasik. Makasha, masan, umasik are the opposite of chorif. I'm sorry, maksha. Umasan, umasik are the opposite.
Goes with chorif.
No.
Because he's a chorif.
No. Maksha goes with masan umasik. Masan umasik means to consider, carefully to consider, Masik is to conclude, to come. We're talking here about an intellectual process. Kashas, mosan, umasik. They go together. These three words go together. These describe someone who was intellectually mature. This describes someone who gadlus akeli. So how all this fits with the yin of Harif, what this asterisk means, I do not know. I couldn't find the reference, so I'm going to have to leave it. If anyone can find it, please fill me in. I asked a few people about this, and no one was certain about it. But it's not going to harm us anyway, because we get the general idea. Thus where you find a tinuk was a charif be'etzem or haseichel, etzem or haseichel, lahamsi eza hamtza, because she comes out with some phenomenally clever remark, some sharp thing. Or he brings from another source. He brings not from his own imagination, but perhaps something that he's seen. That child who has generated this sharp, parents get felled from these things, right? Oh, do you hear the clever thing my kid said? They go wild. In general, the child himself does not understand the words that came out of his mouth, and he cannot explain them, and he does not understand their significance or their meaning. Those of us who are parents have seen this. Bis yashvus. It does not come to him bis yashvus because it came out of the beautiful expression, came out of the blue. What's come out of the blue? Like a makif. This is because the or of seichel illuminates in him, even though he's a tinuk. Does not illuminate him in a way of his yashvus, but it illuminates in him. As this child grows up, and the kalim of Moyach begin to expand and develop from time to time as he develops progressively. The older he gets, the bigger he gets, the more mature he is. The seichel comes more and more in a way of his yashvus. So there are a couple of things. This is a very sophisticated concept, Rabbi Sai, because, smart kid, not smart kid. Well, what do you mean? You could have a kid who is constantly shooting out these very clever, very bright little things, but he can't learn. You have a kid who doesn't shoot out bright and clever things, but what he takes, he internalizes, and he understands, and he thinks about it. It becomes part of him. What does his yashvus mean? His yashvus means it becomes his. It becomes settled within him. It's or, which now becomes part of his being. It's an accretion to his own nefesh. It becomes him. It becomes his thoughts. The thought that he has just heard and learned or understood now becomes part of his mind, part of his thinking. It's settled within him. It's internalized within him. This is the essence of what learning is all about. To be able to generate clever original remarks or clever original ideas may mean nothing if they don't come in a way of his yashvus. His yashvus is artis v'kelim. It's the opposite of or choizer. It's the opposite of makif. It's or which is internalized, or which gives life to the mind, gives life to the knowledge of the individual, and it changes the individual.
Is this when the tinnik gets this brilliant idea, or even sometimes by us or whatever? Is that an or chayzer, or is that
no? If we're or chayzer, we wouldn't have it all together. It's not or chayzer. We're not there yet. We're just really trying to understand when we talk of toihu. The Rebbe has given us a descriptor. You want to understand toihu, you got to understand what means katnus akeli. And you have to understand what means godless or. We have to understand these things. Right now, we are focused only on what does it mean, what means a small keli. And this is used as a mashal, which is a very good mashal, to indicate what is a small keli, and what happens if the or that's mamshich is not l'fierach the keli. V'nimtza, ma'asha atinik mispoil medover neged l'tzaynu. We find that where, in as much as the tinik is very agitated from something which is contrary to his ratzon, it's because of the smallness of the keli of moyach. Moyach cannot contain the inyan, and it can only see things b'derech klal. Ma she'ein boy hagodl is not the case of a godl. Shekeli moychai ruchavim, the kelim of the moyach, the keli of the moyach of the adult is broad. Are broad v'chol inyan v'inyan yischalek atzlei beribui pratim shabai. Everything comes into pratim, into specifics, and into details. So what is specifics and details? So what? So it comes in specifics and details. In a way, it's not a good thing, right? Because it diminishes the or. Once you've got pratim and details and specifics, so the intensity is no longer there. You have a pure anger, well, that's genuine, that's real, that's a true anger. But as soon as you start to, details come into the picture, then it's not real, it's partial anger, it's a diluted anger, it's a defective anger. Okay, it's a diminished anger. So the union of ribui pratim, what's the union of a prat? Why are we dealing with the union of a klal? Our main problem here is the or comes b'derech klal, and here in terms of the adult it comes b'derech prat, because pratim are typhus makum. Pratim have edges. Pratim have definitions. Pratim are things. Pratim are specifics that can be grasped in a finite way by a finite mind. And therefore, they can come b'his yashvus because the keli of Maya can grab onto them, hold onto them, because they have dimensions, they have size, they have colors, they have handles. That's what a prat is. This prat is not that prat. That prat is not that prat. It's a specific, and therefore it can be grasped. A klal, where's the handle on a klal? Where's the edge on a klal? There is no edge. There is no handle on it. It's not something that can be dissected and internalized. So the idea of pratim, bring the or into the range of the kalim. The kalim are able to perceive the pratim in the or. There's always pratim in the or. The kalim are able to perceive it, to find those pratim, to grab a hold of them. Then the or becomes in a way his yashvus, and the or becomes meaningful and it becomes purposeful. Therefore, whatever a person desires or wants, there are ribui pratim v'hag boladafka, and there's always limitation. People desire things in life. Those desires are always, at least for mature adults, they're never pure. In the case of a bank robber, maybe they're pure. I want money, period. I'll do whatever, But in the case of a person that wants something or finds himself in a circumstance which he's hoping to achieve something, he's hoping to go somewhere, he has a hope, he has an aspiration. That's a ratzon. He has an aspiration of some sort. Well, in that aspiration, there are pratim. There are aspects of the aspiration which will motivate him to pursue, but he'll think about it. And the pursuit will not be at the risk of his life. The pursuit will not be at the risk of the stability of his family. The risk will not be at the possible. It will not happen at the risk of possibly injuring someone else or being negative to somebody else. All of these things can happen when your ratzon is driving 1,000 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour street. So there are considerations. Those considerations are because of godless hakeli, and because the keli hamoyach is in a way of godless, it's able to perceive the dimensions of his aspiration and to give it, to consider it, and therefore internalize it. Therefore, this ratzon that he has, it may be a far more dilute ratzon than someone who doesn't have all this capacity. But it's going to be productive, and it's going to be directed, and it's going to be focused, and it's going to produce something. He's in the same way. Something that is contrary to his ratzon, he accepts it with many pratim. With multiple pratim. Something happens which is negative, which is perceived as negative, could even be very negative. So from one side, from one direction, there's anger produced. This is natural. However, because of some specific which he has to be aware of. You're not aware of the specifics, they're just anger. But because of some specific, some prat shaboy, which is in it, yemotza toiv, chesed, he finds some good, and he finds chesed, inyan, in this thing itself, in the very inyan itself, he finds good. Now, to be able to be soivel, good and bad, is a mark of a mature man. To be able to see things in perspective, which is, we're using a language which is almost cliches, but this is the mark of a keli, which is a keli to receive, a keli to internalize, and is able to therefore respond in a productive, good, healthy way. Even though there might be anger here, there are the other dimensions as well. Said even at the time, he could be filled with chesed for the person who's causing his problems, who's driving him nuts. Even though at the same time he's angry. This is not a split personality. This is seer of Adam. Adam is his scholars. Adam is Tikkun. Tikkun is his scholars. There's Chesed Shebegavur. There's Gavur Shebechesed. This is the Yichud, which is an expression of the highest form of Kedusha. And in the human model, it's an expression of what a man should be, what a human being should be. This is the Inu B'Tselem Elokim. And both of these emotions will sit in him simultaneously. One's attitude toward oneself. On the one hand, one has to believe in oneself. One has to have pride in oneself. One has to love oneself. One has to be merciful and compassionate to oneself. You can't be compassionate to yourself. You can't be compassionate to anybody else. You know what compassion is. Das, the ultimate meaning of das, which gives rise to compassion, is das atzma. He knows himself, and therefore he knows how someone else feels, and therefore he's capable of compassion. On the one hand, on the other hand, a person has to be critical of himself. A person has to have bittul. A person has to see himself as needing much improvement. Otherwise, he'll never move. He'll never go to tshuva. Well, how do you live with this dichotomy? That's what we are. That's what a human being is. A human being, by definition, is a dichotomy. But they are synthesized, these two dichotomous states are synthesized, and when the best of both of these trends, the self-love on the one hand and the self-appraisal on the other, synergize with each other, beautiful things come out of it. On the other hand, if one is beyond Kalim, then you have a Balgaiva. If the other is beyond Kalim, you have a depressed case. In this way, just to indicate here, this mashal we're giving is taka a real mashal. That same hanhaga, the same approach applies l'mayla. Shigam kein kolol mechesed v'gevura. We find the same story of chesed and gevura simultaneously expressed in a single event, yachad, together. Ukamay she'omer Razal's the Chomim say ala posek ba'asher mishpatai poloi. This is a posek from Tzfanya, and this Maamar Chazal, which is going to explain it, is from Yavamas. So let me read the pasuk because it doesn't sound anything like what the interpretation is going to be. So this is a pasuk from Tzfanya. Bakshu es Hashem kol anvei haaretz. Seek out, search for Hashem, all of you humble of the earth. Asher mishpatoi pa'olu. The plain taich is who execute his mishpatim, who do his mishpatim. That's pshat. But the way the Chachamim take it, Asher mishpatoi pa'oloi. When mishpat is considered din, judgment, pa'oloi, a person's good actions are likewise considered in the same moment. That's the drush. Okay? So once again, Asher Mishpatai, at the time of judgment, the time of din, at the time of Gevura, regarding a certain individual or a certain event, Pauloi, the Pu'ulas, the good actions, the good things of that person are simultaneously considered. So what's the example here? The example is Nice, I lost my place. Ubasher mishpatei shel pa'oloi. V'kmosh kosuv el shod. So this is the union of, this regards this statement, or this taich of Asher mishpatei pa'oloi, that when din is considered, when Gevurah is present, there's also consideration for the good. This is reflects the situation with Shaul HaMelech. This is again from Yevamos. Shaul, of whom it says in the Gemara. So what happened? There was a famine in the days of David HaMelech. The famine lasted for 3 years. David HaMelech tried very hard to find out what it was. Finally, he went to. He consulted the Urim V'Tumim, and he was told from the Urim V'Tumim, why is this famine? El Shoel, because of Shoel, the El based Hadomim, and his house of blood. So there are two things here. On the one hand, Shoel, and the other hand, Beis Hadomim. You say, well, that's poetic license. It's the same thing. Shoel and his house of blood. It's not the same thing. Shoel is an inyan bifnei atzmai. So the Rebbe Shalom is telling David HaMelech, there are two things here. Shaul HaMelech. So there are two things that David is being told here. So Hashem's telling. There are two inyanim regarding Shoel. One is positive and one is negative. Both inyanim are the reason for this terrible famine. There's the inyan of Shoel, there's the inyan of Beis Hadomim, both regarding Shoel. So why Beis Hadomim? Va'al Shahemi says Hagiboinim. Why? Because he killed off the Giboinim, the Gibeonites.
David.
This is talking about Shoel now.
Shoel.
So you're quite right. Shoel never killed off the Giboinim. What did he do? He destroyed Noiv, which was a city of Kohanim. The Yevoinim depended upon the Kohanim of Noiv for their parnasa. They were water drawers. Why they worked for the Kohanim of Noiv, and whether it destroyed them or not, they must have had a horrible impact on them. Now, why? Pardon?
You didn't kill any of them? 6 or 7?
Shoel didn't.
I think he killed like 6.
He may have, but this pasuk isn't referring to that at all. But it's referring to the fact that he destroyed Shehemis es Hagivoinim. That's what it says. Period. Okay. No, David HaMelech later on did a job on them.
Yeah.
But Shaul himself.
Because the punishment was that he gave a certain amount of kids of Shaul.
That's David HaMelech's problems. That's not Shaul's problems. Here we are talking about a good aspect to Shaul and a bad aspect to Shaul. A bad aspect to Shaul is what we call Beis Hadomim. That refers to Shaul. David HaMelech's out of the picture. Okay. Well, he's not out of the picture exactly, but these two concepts refer to Shaul. So Shaul killed, according to this, killed the Hagivoinim. How? By destroying the Kohanim of Noiv, and this had a very extremely negative impact on the Givoinim. And this is a black mark for Shoel. This is something that requires rectification. This is a sin of Shoel that requires rectification, and that's one reason that there's a famine. But there's a second reason there's a famine. El Shoel, not on Beis Hadomim, but El Shoel, on Shoel himself. Shaloi nisped kahalocha. He was never given a proper hesped. He was never given a proper eulogy. Never given a proper burial. He was a king after all. He was the chosen of Hashem Yisbarach. He was never given a proper burial. V'al Beis Hadomim shahareg Noiv ir haKohanim. V'al Beis Hadomim because of killed off Noiv, which is a city of Kohanim. V'al haGivoinim the Voinim shahemis Shaul, the Givoinim that Shaul killed. As explained in the Gemara in Yevamos, they didn't really kill them, but he put them in a situation where they lost their parnasa. V'zehu davar heifuchoi. So here you got two absolute opposites. David HaMelech, I'm making a famine here because of this horrible thing that Shaul did, and because of the fact that Shaul deserved much better. Well, which is it? Is he a bad guy? Is he a good guy? Well, there are no bad or good. Every bad's got some good, every good's got some bad. If you take a b'derech klal, each one of these things is significant. And if you miss one of them, there's a chasaron in your response, and there's a chasaron in your understanding, and it's no longer internalized, and it no longer becomes useful, and doesn't become part of the fabric of divine will and divine plan and divine seichel in the world. Take a b'derech klal. So he wasn't eulogized, big deal, but look what he did. So would be gevura without any chesed at all. That would be probably the instinctive approach that, you see people eat each other alive up here in the world today. That they, the mushal, and it's a very crude mushal, but it's so indicative of human nature. This is such a refined inyan. But, some politician has spent his life doing things. And he's like every other human being. He's done bad and he's done good. But let's say as a politician, he's done a lot for the people. And then he goes and people find out that he did something very bad. Throw him out, get rid of him, kill him, hang him. He's no good. Impeach him, whatever. Well, yeah, but what about the other side? The black and white, that's katnus, that's immaturity, that's the nature of our society today, B'klal. It's so unproductive and it is so wrong because each prat is meaningful in and of itself. If you take things b'derech klal, you're missing the pratim, you're missing the meaning, you're missing the significance, and it's not or which is going to give life to a truthful keli. The truth is chesed and gevurah are both true. And both have to be given credit, both have to be credited, and both have to be understood. Anyway, v'zehu davar heifuchai she'im avoin shoyel nizkar. If, so the Rebbe says, it's totally contradictory. If are you going to mention the sin of Shaul, I keep mispronouncing his name, nizkar al shahamis es hagivoinim, which is that he killed off all the givoinim, let's say indirectly, as the Gemara implies. But the same mida atzma nimsa sham chesed lanash ala heder kavaydai. At the same moment that he's being knocked, or his sin is being underscored, is being identified. At the same time, the fact that he deserved covet, which he did not get, is also being identified. They're two complete. They're lehefech, mamish one the other. Achainyan the mishpat hadin.
Truthfulness.
That's emes. That's truthfulness. But in klalim, that's the point. A klal may be intense, but it's not truthful. In the mishpat hadin, sham nimtza gam toy v'chesed. In the time of mishpat hadin, one finds also toy v'chesed. Rashi explains at that place, Mamakam shedinin esa odom sham nizkar tzidkosav. At the time a person is judged, at that same time his righteousness is brought forth as well. Okay, everybody, so God willing, we will. Are we all right on this? This is basically just an extended. Well, it's a mushal, but the mushal is a very lofty mushal also. So this gives the idea again. Pardon?
Very nice mushal.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. One of the great beauties, one of the many magnificent things about this mimer, is that it is so, because our world to a large extent is a product of olam hatoyu, shir sakelim. And on the other hand, we see tikkun in it. We have a Rebbe after all. I mean, we see contradictions everywhere. This mimer gives us huge insight into the balance between tohu and tikkun and how to be masak and tohu. And it's directly applicable to our lives here and now.